I let my parents live in my house and now my mother thinks she owns it. So I slapped her straight with their leasing agreement and now they are begging me not to kick them out. I bought a small starter home during the housing market crash, completely by myself. I lived there for the better part of a decade before buying a larger home with my now husband. My parents really wanted to live there because it was small and easy to maintain. They have had a foreclosure in the past, so no way would they be capable of someone giving them a mortgage. Also, my dad is retired and my mom doesn't work. They wanted to rent from me. For a discounted rent they paid off the mortgage. Let's say $50K, with an over six-figure inheritance my parents got. A lease was written explaining that it was a prepayment of rent and their rent would be only the taxes and insurance and they would pay $350 per month. Basically only going up when taxes/insurance going up. We signed the lease, with all the other typical stuff in it, and had it notarized, and that's how it's been for a while now. So to be clear, I'm not making effing dime on this house. I recently told them the rent would go up by $3. Yes, $3 BC of a slight increase in the insurance. My mother lost her poop, claiming I'm a money-hungry bee. She was going to rip out everything she did, that I owe her and I can't evict her because it's her house. She's not responsible for the insurance. Lease says otherwise. Insurance hasn't been raised in a decade. I'm trying to make her pay my personal homeowner's insurance, and a court will show me that and give her my house. We have a notarized lease. They are listed as tenants. I am the only one on the deed. My father demanded the bills, zero balls this man has, to see if I'm ripping them off. P.S. This house is a commutable distance from effing Manhattan, so a studio appointment around here is like $1,500. This is a house with a large yard for their dog. I can easily get $2K for this house. Even before they moved in, I sent them copies of the taxes and insurance showing only their address. P.S. I'm charging them discounted taxes. You get a discount for paying in full 90 days early. I told them to add and divide by 12 and told my mother to talk to a lawyer so they can slap them straight. I guess my father agreed with me because now she's divorcing my father. Update. They have lived there for 4 years now. I mainly did this for my father so he can get a chance to retire after having heart surgery when he worked a physically demanding job for 36 years. They asked to rent the house and pay it off as a prepayment of mortgage, so the only big bill monthly was their health insurance. I had a few others interested in renting my house. I did not ask them for this. They did not co-sign on the mortgage or help with the down payment. Their name is not on my house/deed. There have been rent increases in the past due to the taxes and insurance going up and there was never an issue before. My mom has a history of putting poop on me and $3 is I guess my line in the sand. I started paying $200 per week after I graduated HS until I moved out at 20. I worked about 65 hours/week on top of school to do this. I stupidly put her on my phone plan and basically paid her phone for 2 years until the contract ended. BC she only paid me for 3 months out of those 2 years. She promised money for my wedding and never delivered. They didn't pay for college. They stopped paying for clothes/school expenses when I was 16. BC I had a job. I know this is all a red flag parade, but I trusted my dad more than her I guess and thought I was doing a good thing. I also want to keep this house. BC I love it and want to move back one day or allow my child to live there when they go to college. Update 2. To back up, after the divorce comment they are not, in fact, getting a divorce. They went and celebrated their anniversary at a casino. I did not speak to them for a week. This past weekend I tried to speak to my father and get an apology, hoping he would be in a better frame of mind. He wasn't. He doubled down with the BS saying they didn't realize all the stuff I put in the lease, that my house was uninhabitable when they moved in. It wasn't, that they never would have put work into the house if they were just renters, etc. I asked them to specify and they said stuff about the garage screen door, the shed roof, that in no way affects the livability of the house, but in the words of my lawyer and, you agreed to live there in its original condition buddy, so that's on you, just like not reading the lease. My dad went on to just say all these things they were doing for me and not acknowledging a damn thing I was doing for them. At that point I said some not nice things. They wanted to know if they were still gonna be able to take my son to the fair. Not a fat chance in hell. I told him I didn't want either one of them around me or my family until they stopped being delusional and to decide to pay the increase or GTFO. I then cried when I got off the phone and my husband was upset with all of this. Cut to today. My mother called me asking what needed to be done to resolve this. BC not being able to see my son was upsetting to them. I told them they needed to apologize for what they called me and that they were out of line. Well, you guys, they were scammed. My parents were effing scammed. That's what this was all about. In my area, homeowners get daily calls/texts and letters from people wanting to buy their house. It's not new in this market. I've even told them these letters are trash. Well, my parents were getting calls from people saying they were going to be renting the house. They acted like they were representing me. Someone also showed up to their house and was being very pushy about trying to see my mom in the house. This all happened before I mentioned the rent increase. So when my mom heard rent increase she thought these phone calls and this person was real. Like, I was going to raise the rent to something they couldn't afford and force them out. This was before I told them it was $3. But even after they thought I was throwing them out, I asked them why they didn't ask me and they said they were scared and had no place to go. I explained to them that's not even how it works. I can't rent a place with tenants. There's a whole legal process and they should know this. They apologized for how they acted and everything they said and were embarrassed. They were even more embarrassed that they believe this person and are officially old people that fell for a scammer. BC they thought they were smarter than that. They hadn't given them money or information yet. I told them they were probably setting them up for it. I have no idea why they believe/fell for this person or why they never asked me in the first place since I don't and wouldn't hire a representative for my one house. Their cameras were off when they came but they're going to file a police report anyway. I told them to call the cops next time to file for harassment/trespassing if these people call or show up again. I got my apology from both parents. I explained everything in the lease and why it was legally written that way. I explained to them I can't throw them out on the street on a whim and as long as they pay the minimum bills to live there, taxes/insurance, I was going to keep my end of the deal. So I guess that's my update. They're not getting evicted for now, but I might have to start monitoring them more closely to see if they fall for other dumb poop.